Hello and welcome back to KXAN Plus. I'm your host, Esmeralda Zamora, and if you're watching us live, happy Wednesday. Thanks for joining us. We have our Nick's First Warning Weather Show or stream with our KXAN Chief Meteorologist, Nick Bannin. Nick, how are you doing today?
Esme, it's a stream and a show. We call it both.
A stream show.
Yeah.
Well, today has been pretty crazy.
Yeah.
We started our day pretty strong, and then we lost power here in the studio for a few seconds. I think the universe is trying to tell us something, but it is giving us some cool nights and some cool mornings.
Yeah, it's been an interesting day. You're right. We started very cool. We're heating up. You mentioned our power outage here at KXAN, which still, we've got backup generators. The lights are on. We appreciate that. But what we're going to talk about today is not just cool nights, but the eventual return of some cold nights. And I don't know if you hear the internet chatter, but every time we've got a cool night or a cool morning, everyone's loving it. Are you the same? Do you like those cool, refreshing mornings?
I love to step outside and be outside with my dogs while I let them out before I get ready.
Nice.
It's really nice.
Yeah, and it's great to sort of open up the windows too. Certain times of the day, you can start doing that now, especially in the morning. Get those fresh breezes blowing out the cobwebs inside and giving you some fresh air into your home. So we're going to dig into some of the cool air. First, let's talk about what's happening here this week, which is some pretty cool air that we've had as well. Mostly in the mornings. We've had the cool mornings before the afternoons have really heated up. This morning, we got down to 66. Not 66. Our coolest morning. I know. Pretty nice, right?
That's nice if you ask me.
Yeah, and it wasn't even our coolest morning of the week. We were down to 62 here yesterday morning. So we've started to see our nights start to warm up again. But still, anytime you're in the 60s in the morning this time of year, take it. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was below average, too. 72 is average for this time of year. But there's a trend that you're not necessarily going to like over the next few days, are morning lows, and that's what this is here. Thursday morning, Friday morning, Saturday morning, Sunday morning are heading in a warming direction. So it looks like the coolest air of the week anyway is behind us as far as morning lows go. But you still have some pretty nice mornings ahead. We've got tomorrow morning. Should be our last morning of this week anyway, with Austin in the 60s. There'll still be some 60s outside of the city on Friday and possibly even this weekend, but especially in the hill country. However, downtown or Camp Mabry is our official site. It does look like warmer nights and mornings are going to start to pick up as we get into the weekend.
I think we all were excited about that little early taste of autumn, but it's getting ripped away from us now.
Yeah, and it's tied in very much so to the humidity. I can pull up our muggy meter here, which we know is a fan favorite.
Yeah.
Sometimes when we don't show it, actually, we'll get some emails, people saying, hey, did I miss the muggy meter? When did you show it? Could you put it online? But the more humid the nights are and the mornings are, the warmer the nighttime lows get. What you really need is pretty dry air, light wind, clear skies to allow for temperatures to drop. And we've had that the last few days, but you can see that the direction the humidity is going to head in here as we get into tomorrow and this weekend. It's not terribly humid, but it's just more humid than we've been. So we'll leave the comfy category and dip our toes into this muggy, humid category. But just a few weeks ago, we were very humid or oppressive. So it's still not terrible, but it is going to mean some warmer nights for us.
Yeah, just a few weeks ago, we were triple digits, and we're not there
just
anymore.
Last week, we were triple digits. Last week had the hottest temperature of the year in Austin. We got to 104 by my memory. So we're doing okay here this week, even with a little more humidity on the way.
Well, I know that a lot of our viewers are wondering, we got that first taste of autumn, so they're all wondering when the first freeze is coming. Nick?
Yeah, so let's just sum up freezes in Austin. This slide should do that fairly well. Our average first freeze is December 1st. We typically average 12 freezes, I would say in a winter, but sometimes you can get those freezes outside of the winter months. If they happen in November, that's still meteorological fall. If they happen, say, in early March, that would be meteorological spring. But we average 12 freezes during the colder season that stretches from the end of one year into the beginning of the other. Our average final freeze of the year is February 15th. The earliest Austin has ever seen a freeze where temperatures drop down to 32 or colder at night was October 26th of 1924. So sometimes they can happen real early. That would just be about a month and a half from now. And then the latest final freeze we've had of the colder
April
months
9th?
was all the way in April. Yeah, so
Wow.
sort of Easter time there. We've had some freezes that late. But that is not normal. What is normal for freezes is this, and we thank our partners over at the National Weather Service. They put together an original version of this map, and then we adapted it for our local area. But you can see where the average first freeze is for an area near you. And let's start earliest to latest here. So in the hill country, you're able to dip those overnight lows colder earlier, October 31st through November 6th. So coming still in about a month and a half's time here for the first freeze of the season in portions of Gillespie and Mason counties. But then the rest of our area starts to get a little later into November for the first freeze of the year, and not so much dipping your toes there in October. For the majority of the hill country, November 7th through the 13th is when we get our first freeze. And then when we get into the eastern hill country and even the western metro, then our first freeze gets a little later than that. Call it the second into the third week of November 14th through the 20th. So that third week is when we average that first freeze. And then for the majority of the I-35 corridor and east through our eastern counties, then we get into that fourth week of November, the 21st through the 27th. But interestingly, Austin as a city and some of the surrounding neighborhoods where we've got more concrete, more asphalt. I-35, sure. That retains more heat, so it prevents nighttime lows from getting as cold. So the city of Austin itself has a later average first freeze, somewhere between that November 28th and December 4th window for the average first freeze. And that would include Austin's Camp Mabry. Not so much the airport, though. The airport, based on its topography there, often will see temperatures several degrees cooler than Camp Mabry. It's also a little farther away from the city a bit. Mm-hmm. And that can help temperatures cool off more at night there, especially under ideal radiational cooling. So for most of us, we've still got some time to go here before our average first freeze. Not talking weeks in most cases, but a couple of months or so until that happens. But we are now in meteorological fall, where we can get our first freezes. Of course, meteorological fall runs through the end of November, and most of us, on an average year anyway, would have had a freeze by then, Esme.
Nick, you mentioned that December 1st may be around the first freeze, but has there been a history in the first freeze starting later in December than what we would normally anticipate?
Yeah, we've had some first freezes of the colder months that have happened later in December and even into January.
Wow.
I've got a slide here on the recent first freezes in Austin. And last year, we had to wait until the new year, really this year. It's last winter this year. January 6th was our first freeze of the season. So we went all December without a freeze in Austin. That was our second latest first freeze in Austin area history. And you could see over the last 5 winters, only the winter of 2020 into 2021 saw an average freeze of that December 1st.
Wow.
Every other year has happened later. So, and the time in which you get your first freeze actually says nothing about how many freezes you're going to get that winter. Because last winter, we had a very warm December, and then we waited until January 6th for our first freeze of the winter season. And then we had way more freezes than usual.
In February.
We had a cold January and February overall. So just because that first freeze is late doesn't necessarily say that you're not going to have that many freezes, because you can sort of catch up and do a lot of them all at once.
And Nick, how many freezes do we normally get within that one meteorological winter span?
Yeah, so in Austin, again, it's about 12 freezes. What we had last winter was 16. So even though we had the second latest first freeze of the season, we still ended up doing a lot within a short amount of time and getting more freezes than normal.
And it was all within like 2 months, right?
It was within about a month and a third, we got all 16 of those freezes. So it wasn't very well spread out through the winter. It was like, oh, it's cold now, cold, 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 a lot of freezes, a lot of freezes.
Yeah.
And then, oh, it's over. And then I think our last freeze was last February.
Is that normal?
Well, we typically see, again, our average final freeze is February 15th. So we usually see it in February sometime. But the fact that we had such a late first freeze, you would have thought, oh, now we're running out of time to get up to an average number of freezes. But last year we had that colder pattern that came with us in January and February. You may remember a little bit of snow that we got as well.
I remember being here with you and then stepping out to get video of the little snowflakes that we had.
Yeah, wasn't it nice? I did a little snow sledding, makeshift sledding with the kids that morning.
With a cardboard box.
And it was around that time that we were able to stack up several freezes. I just want to show you the latest freezes ever, because last year we waited until January 6th to get our first freeze, and then we got a lot. We've actually had some other late first freezes in more recent years, although the top one here, the latest first freeze of the season ever, was January 15th in 1989. And then we had last year, and then January 4th, we had a couple of years when the first freeze of the year happened then. And then also very recently, 3 years before now, we had our first freeze in January 2nd. And that was I remember that one because that was my first full winter here in Central Texas, thinking, oh gosh, we've waited a while for this one. And that was January 2nd. And then lo and behold, 3 years later, we had another very late first freeze, even later than that one. And then, of course, December 30th stands out for a couple of years. And then most of our other freezes have been in December or November. But yes, still, amazingly, with that late first freeze last winter, we were able to stack up more freezes than normal, getting 16 with an average of 12.
Have we ever gotten more than 16?
Oh, yeah. I don't know if I pulled up I could do that as we speak. Wow, you're catching me on the fly here, and I love it. Let's see. I'm going to do some digging here. The number of days with a minimum temperature below or equal to 32.
Because I believe we had about 25 triple-digit days or more this summer.
Triple digits?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think we're at 21 right now. 21 or 22.
Do we ever beat that count with freezes?
With freezes. Oh, I'm sure. Let me just take a look here. Austin area data. And then here we go. It's pulling it up right now. I won't be able to display it, but I can give you some numbers of the most freezes we've ever had. 1925 had 54 freezes.
54 freezes?
Yeah.
Wow, I wish we had those days.
You don't remember 1925?
Yeah, I remember. I lived through it. It was so cold.
And you made it through that very cold winter. 1924 also had 54 freezes. 1899 had 49 freezes. 49 and 1948 had 41 freezes. And there have been many other years. Let me count. 1, 2,
and
3,
we're stuck here with 16 freezes.
I know, right? There have been many years, say about another 10 years, where we had freezes between 30 and 40 of them during the year. There's a graphic that I'm looking at behind the scenes here. And then the general trend is for fewer freezes over time as our climate's been warming and as Austin has been expanding too. So fewer freezes as a result of that. So it's no surprise that those years much longer ago had the most
Longer
freezes there.
freezes, yeah, that's right.
Certainly more freezes anyway.
How many do you guess that we'll have this winter?
So we're looking at a weak La Nina, as we talked about last time, and that may actually continue through the winter now. La Ninas are typically warmer than normal, but they can have periods of Arctic blasts, which can sort of counteract the warmer than normal overall pattern. But last winter was a La Nina winter too.
And we saw Arctic blasts, right?
We did, especially January and February. We had some of that, and we had a little bit of snow. So it's a bit too early to sort of throw out winter predictions with a whole lot of confidence. But considering last winter was La Nina, and we ended up with a little bit more in the way of frozen nights, or nights that have dropped down to 32, I would put us around between, say, 14 and 18. So pretty close to what we had last winter would be my guess.
14 and 18. Well, that's good enough for me.
Yeah. Our ground is not as dry as it was going into last winter. Dry ground can cool off fairly well at night, so that may help to limit some of the
Freezing
freezes.
nights,
But there'll be a number of factors here that we look at for that. I do want to talk about how we break down the number of freezes by month, because they don't always happen at once. We see the most freezes in a month happening in January, but you can see it's a fairly evenly distributed period here of freezes. Yeah, so December has the second most. January has 5. February is actually one of our quickest, fastest warming months. So the beginning of the month, you can get some winter weather, and then the average temperature warms up very quickly during the month of February. So by the end of the month, you're sort of turning the page on winter and starting to feel more like spring again, and that usually results in warmer temperatures. So even though February is a shorter month, which may play into these numbers a little bit, it's got 3 fewer days than
all the other
January
months.
does. Yeah. So slightly fewer triple digits there. Otherwise, generally speaking, it's a fairly even distribution there surrounding January. 5 triple-digit days in a typical January. 5 freezes, I should say. I'm in triple-digit mode.
Triple-digit days in January? I hope not.
Thankfully not. 5 freezes in an average January. 3 in December, almost that in February. And then on the tail end, or the very beginning there, November averages 1, and March averages 1 as well. Although we have had some into April, as we showed you, the average number of freezes in April is less than 1. So, those outliers there, we don't dive into a whole lot.
It feels like here in Austin, we're already in spring by mid-February. That's usually...
Yeah, I mean, and we've certainly... It's a transition month for us where we start dabbling into some warmer temperatures a little bit. You can even get severe weather. I mean, technically, you can get severe weather any time of year. But you can start seeing that pick up a little bit more later in February. But really, our severe weather season kicks off March, April, May into June. So as we near March, things usually get a little more interesting from that perspective. But you're right, it does start to feel a little more spring-like then. I do want to dive into just how what our recent years have looked like from the number of freezes we've had. Because despite the fact that we've had some pretty warm years in previous years, and many of these years have averaged toward the top as far as overall years have gone, we've actually had more freezes than average 4 out of the last 5 years. It was only the winter of 2023 and 2024 that we actually had fewer freezes than normal. And most of these years have been La Nina winters. So La Nina winters have typically brought us, at least in more recent memory, more frozen nights.
Frozen.
I'm gonna keep doing that while I'm in summer
More
mode
triple
still.
frozen nights.
More triple frozen nights. Yeah, more freezes have been happening in our La Nina winters, which are usually warmer than average, but they can have those much colder periods that come our way. And that's usually because you get some Arctic fronts that bring in much colder air from, say, the northern tier states and drop that down into central Texas. So you can get that to cool down the air for, say, a week or two right in the middle of winter. And then you get to add up a lot of those freezes all at once, and then you sort of climb out of it again.
Well, I do want to remind everyone, if you just joined us, we are not talking about a freeze coming. We are talking about how far away the freeze that is going to come is.
Yeah,
right?
and for most people, the first freeze here is going to be a couple months away at the very least.
Maybe after Thanksgiving?
Yeah, probably. I mean, around that time in Austin is our typical first freeze, but you can get them before Thanksgiving across much of the hill country. Let's talk just quickly about what
Frost
different types of freezes there are, and also frost. You can get frost before it gets down to freezing.
This can be really confusing, even for me.
Yeah, so frost is possible between about 34 and 36 degrees. It's rather unlikely above that. And then frost is more likely under 34 degrees, but you also have to have some other factors like light wind, enough moisture in the air, that sort of thing to be able to develop that frost. But then you start getting in freeze territory when you hit 32, of course, because that's freezing. But we've got different types of freezes. There's a light freeze when the air temperature drops to between 30 and 32 degrees. That is less likely to cause damage to crops and that sort of thing. And it's certainly not likely to freeze a whole lot of pipes or anything like that. But then you get below 30, and then you start entering the territory where certainly non-native Central Texas plants might not do so well.
Or people.
Yeah, and the people too, of course. Anytime you're in the 30s, we got to worry about people who might be outside in this sort of cold. But then you get deeper down into the 20s, and then you start thinking about the potential for pipes to freeze, especially pipes that are not well insulated, sort of influenced by the outside air without passing through a number of layers. So different types of freezes and then different windows for the potential for frost. But the way things are looking outside right now with temperatures in the 90s, I know this feels a little distant from now, but with so many of us getting in the mood for the cool air, thanks to the cooler mornings that we still have a little bit of left here this week, we figured it would be a good time to talk about the potential for a first freeze, which likely will be happening as we get into November or December, most likely.
But not anytime soon.
Not anytime soon, the way we see things for now.
Well, Nick, you have an article published on our website, KXAN.com. Can you tell me about the article?
Yeah, so it generally just wraps up a lot of what we talked about here today, how close we are to our first freeze. You're able to review some of those maps that we've put together and some of the stats we put together, too, on the recent first freezes and the latest first freezes, that sort of thing, and get you set for some of those colder temperatures, which so many of us are anticipating and perhaps looking forward to, because those freezes can be nice. They get rid of those mosquitoes that we don't want around so much. I mean, get rid of them. When it gets colder at night, even if you don't have a freeze, those mosquitoes don't like it so much. But then they always come back in the spring anyway. So they're always going to come back regardless. But we thought we would dive into it. And on KXAN.com, under the Weather and Traffic tab, just click on Weather Blog, and it'll be right there.
Yeah, and if you want to find out when is a good time to start covering your plants, visit the website.
We'll let you know.
Follow the dates that you have there.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Nick. When can we catch you on air?
So I'll be on at 5, 6 on KXAN, 9 on CW Austin, and 10 on KXAN. Meteorologist Freddie Vela doing the 4 to 5 o'clock newscast for me today. But of course, we're tracking sunshine, warmth, and the return of humidity. But maybe a couple spots could squeeze out a shower. We'll be talking about that starting at 4.
And a very hot game day, right?
Oh, it is looking warm and a little humid too. But at least we don't have to worry about storms or things getting in the way of those activities like the Texas game or anything else you got this weekend.
Yes. Well, we'll see you on air, Nick. Thanks for joining us, and we'll also see you next week.
Thanks, Esme.